Salem, Massachusetts, famous for its witch trials, steeped in the tales of magic and tragedy. But there's a lesser-known story that chills the bones of even the bravest of sailors. What if I told you that Salem is also home to a ghost ship? A vessel that vanished without a trace, lost at sea, only to reappear in the most mysterious ways. This is the true story of Salem's ghost ship, the Friendship, and its eerie legacy. Let's go back to the early 1800s. Salem wasn't just a town of superstition and trials. It was a bustling maritime hub. Ships sailed from its ports, bringing back treasures from across the world. Spices, tea, silk, to name a few. One of those ships happened to be Friendship, a grand merchant vessel built in 1797. For years, the Friendship sailed the most dangerous of seas, returning home time and time again, safe and sound. Until one fateful voyage in 1812, Captain William Story commanded the Friendship on a trade mission from the East Indies. The ship was loaded with valuable cargo, and the crew expected a successful journey. The weather was calm as they left Salem's harbour, the ship's white sails catching the wind. It was supposed to be just another voyage. But from the start, strange things began to happen. Not long after passing the Cape of Good Hope, ships in the area started reporting unusual sightings. Vessels claimed that they spotted the Friendship far off from her intended course, drifting aimlessly at first. These reports seemed like simple mistakes. Maybe the crew was taking a different route, trying to avoid dangerous waters. But soon, the sailors began to notice something more unsettling. They tried to hail the Friendship, but there was no response. Silence. No shouts, no waves from the crew. Some said they heard cries coming from the deck, a faint desperate, carried by the wind. But they got close, and the ship vanished into the mist. As the weeks passed, sightings became more frequent, more disturbing. The ships travelling in the same waters continued to report ghostly encounters. Some saw the Friendship gliding silently through the fog, her sails full, her crew eerily still. One ship, the Eagle, reported seeing shadowy figures moving on deck, but when they approached, the ship simply disappeared, swallowed by the fog. No one could explain it. And then the Friendship was gone. No wreckage was ever found, no sign of life. It was as if the sea had simply erased her. The ship and its entire crew were lost without a trace, leaving Salem with a mystery that would haunt the town for years to come. But the story doesn't end there. The sea may have claimed the Friendship, but her ghostly presence continued to be felt. Years after her disappearance, strange reports began to surface in Salem. Fishermen and sailors alike began to tell stories of a ghost ship that appeared in the dead of night, shrouded in fog, gliding just beyond reach. They claimed it looked like Friendship, perfectly intact. Her sails were still catching the wind. And just like before, anyone who tried to approach the ship would vanish into thin air, leaving only the sound of creaking wood and the faintest whisper of voices on the wind. At first, these stories were dismissed as sailors' tales, exaggerations by the loneliness of the sea. But as more and more sightings were reported, people began to believe the Friendship hadn't just disappeared, it had been cursed. Legend has it that a curse had been placed on the Friendship long before her final voyage. According to the old sailors, there was a man, a crew member, who had died on a previous journey. He had fallen ill at sea, and by tradition, his body was buried in the ocean. But he had no family to mourn him, no proper burial in Salem's graveyard. And in maritime law, an improper burial is dangerous. It's said that a soul denied a resting place can curse the ship that sails over their watery grave, condemning it and everyone aboard to an eternal voyage. Could this curse have been what doomed the Friendship? Many believe that the restless spirit of this sailor had taken hold of the ship, leading it off course and into oblivion. Perhaps that's why the Friendship has been spotted, even decades after her disappearance, sailing the seas with a crew of the dead, forever lost in the fog. Each sighting adds another piece to the mystery. Some say they hear a low, mournful whistle when the ghost ship passes, like a call from the other side. Others report seeing the captain, William Story himself, still at the helm, guiding his ship through the endless, cursed voyage. The Friendship's fate became one of Salem's most enduring mysteries, blending fact with folklore, or was it? For the sailors who lived and died by the sea, these tales weren't just stories, they were warnings. Ships would give a wide berth to the waters where the Friendship had disappeared. No one wanted to tempt fate, or worse, become part of the ship's cursed crew. Today, a replica of the Friendship rests in Salem's harbour, a tribute to the town's maritime past. But despite this monument to history, the legend of the ghost ship remains alive. There are those who still swear that on misty nights, if the wind is just right, you can see the shadow of a ship moving silently through the fog. Its sails full, its crew locked into place, eternally drifting, bound by the curse that refuses to let them rest. So, next time you find yourself walking along the shores of Salem, listening to the waves as they crash against the rocks, keep your eyes on the horizon. Listen closely to the wind. You might see or catch a glimpse of the Friendship, forever sailing the waters she was doomed to haunt. And if you do, remember, not every ship that leaves Salem Harbour makes it back to shore. Some are lost at sea, and others are lost to something far more sinister.